Miami football talk, everyone. This is what we do here each and every Wednesday night at the Voice of College Football. And of course, you're on the Miami channel, so we could see Miami commentary coming your way just about at any time. Thanks to this guy right next to me, Cam Underwood, State of the U. But this is our flagship show. So please pull up and like and subscribe and do all those good things to support the channel. And we appreciate you being here. And we will take your comments and questions. Cam, how you doing tonight?
Doing well, doing great. Feeling good. Glad to be here with you guys. And an early message from George Blissett. Good evening. Put in there even before we started recording. So hopping in there to get us started. George, good evening to you as well, my friend.
Well, the recruiting rankings certainly means something, and other people opt, I should say, for the offers list, and of course the schools will be a great indication. But when you get both coming together at the same time, that's a good indicator right there. So we got a close to top 150 player according to the 247 Sports composite. Also, originally committed to a place called the University of Georgia. That's typically a good indication that the guy can play. And one Jontavius Wyman has made a flip south.
Yeah, man. So this is a kid who I know that has been mentioned in the comments a couple of times here over the last couple of months. Miami has been pushing here for Jontavius Wyman from Jonesboro, Georgia, in the Atlanta area. He's I was going to say two-way player, but he also plays on specials. So he plays in all three dimensions of the game at the high school level. About 5'11", 6 feet tall, 170 with a positive wingspan. Was committed to Georgia. They pushed for him very hard early. So he was committed through his and after his sophomore year or season, all the way through his junior year and season, up until last Saturday when he flipped that commitment to the University of Miami. And Zach Etheridge and Will Harris have been pushing for him very hard. Miami had been pursuing him even before those guys got on staff here. And this is just another big, kind of recruiting win. You'd love to see going toe-to-toe with our, one of the top 2-3 recruiting programs right now. He did it last year for Chris Ewald at cornerback from Chaminade, so keeping a player home at that position. Then now you go into their backyard to go get Jontavius Wyman. This is a kid who can hoop. He can play seriously. If you look at the composite, which I always do for many, many years for consistency of comparison, number 22 in Georgia, number 17 corner overall, number 166 in the country. I think that those numbers can and will rise. This is, I didn't see what he ran on the track, but this has got to be a kid who's south of 10.9 in the 100. Like, he flies on film. And if you're here watching this video and listening to the sound of my voice, please go click on the profile, because I did a video breakdown for him like I'm doing for any and all commits. And I don't know if you're able to see this, but I did a full page, 2 sides, 2 columns of notes. So usually this is for JJ Sparks. I was using the same paper. Okay, there's like 9 plays. I have 18 plays because he has an offensive highlight and a defensive highlight where I took the notes and we walked through it. Guys, this is a serious, serious player. He adds athleticism at cornerback that we've seldom seen in recent years. We've had some good corners, but he's that freakish athlete. He's, shouting out one of my favorite players of all time. When he committed to the University of Miami, I had a good friend of mine argue with me that Amon Richards needed to play defense because we didn't have game-breaking players on defense. And I respectfully submitted, we don't have game-breaking players on offense either. And then we did. And then, he did that, when he was able to play. But Jontavius Wyman has that kind of athleticism, similar in speed and everything. He, if he catches an interception, he's probably going to take it back to the crib. This is a guy on offense who just gets missing in the return game. He makes a guy miss in space while not slowing down. And then all of a sudden, they're queuing up the band and changing the scoreboard, because he went and scored. He outruns angles. The second play of his offensive highlight is him at Wildcat quarterback, goes to the right it's like from the 6-yard line, goes to his right, makes a couple guys miss, gets down to the 2, and then says, oh, hey, wait, way back over there on the left side, I think I can go score, and then drops back and goes all the way around and then like runs through a couple of dudes. It's incredible what you see him do on the field. So, and for those who will see the most viewed highlight being the offensive one, you're like, well, what does he do on defense? 37 tackles. As you're looking right there, 2 for loss. If Mark is able to scroll down, you'll see, 5 interceptions, 32 yards per return. You know what I mean? Like 12 PBUs, a forced fumble, returning it for 41 yards. And I saw at least 2 pick sixes on his film from this past year. Like, yeah, this is a guy that when you combine his talents with others in this recruiting class, you have to be really, really happy with the way that things are going with recruiting on defense. And yeah, you see, okay, the rushing from, his freshman year and everything. If you go whichever way, so we can see the receiving yards, like that was, they don't have the ones from his junior year, because that was sophomore year, 37 catches, 602 yards. But he did way more than that. Trust me. He's going by double teams, and the thing is, he has this sudden athleticism. He stops and starts on a dime. He makes guys miss in phone booths. There's a couple of plays. I'm urging you to go watch the video, because I really did take all the notes and break it down. There's a couple of times where he has this much room on the sideline, and there's 5 defenders around him, and he goes to score. And like, he's juking guys out of their shoes. He's strutting into the end zone the last 3 yards, like that one Lamar Jackson video from when he was in high school, making the guy miss and then pointing at him. Like that sudden athleticism, those kind of things paired with decent height at 6 feet tall, good arm length, a wingspan, positive wingspan and everything, and a guy who just makes plays all of the time. This and a guy that Georgia wanted in their class, not a guy who was just like, okay, we're taking him, and then no, they wanted him, and we went and got him up off of that commitment. You should be very excited about pairing him with Camden Portis, Clinton Portis' son, who won the Rivals Camp defensive back MVP last weekend. So for those who are saying, oh well, he's a nepo baby, it's just his last name. He went out there with some of the best players in the Southeast at that camp and was the defensive back MVP. And then I haven't even gotten to the player that a lot of people think is the best cornerback in this group, Jalen Seatbelt Waters from Sefner Armwood. So now you have those 3 dudes in this class at that position of, we know, dire need. I know that we did a lot to rebuild it for this year, but you still need more. So we got all those guys last year, the Chris Ewalls, the Jabori Antoines of the world, stepping in. And now you're going to back that up with another elite group, stacking talent on talent, like from the recruiting rules. So yeah, getting Jontavius Wyman was a big, big win for Miami in terms of recruiting, and we're going to keep pushing forward.
We are here at the Voice of College Football for you, talking Canes every Wednesday night. We're leading into the spring game. We will get to that in just a minute. And of course, your comments and questions are paramount to us, so we will be scanning that chat. We appreciate your contributions in any way. Please like and subscribe. If it is not a good thing or a sacrifice for you to contribute, please don't. But if you've got the wherewithal and you've got the resources, please consider super chat contributions to help us continue to build and expand and grow here at the Voice of College Football. All right, 421 shows, folks. We've done this for a while, so here we go.
Paulo, first of all, I saw you said hello. Hopefully he ends up better than Gervin Hall Jr. Now, why is Gervin Hall taking shot? Okay, now I know why Gervin Hall, but what? Jontavius Wyman, he's doing his big one. Like I said, I did the video on him. I talked about the way that he's athletic, plays a different position. Not going to wear number 26 because they gave that to Amari Wallace, who, by the way, seems like he's actually playing very well, and that the break of his leg was, clean bone and not muscle and tendon. So he's able, it was like a very bad compound fracture on that backfield at Miramar High School. And I know that field and I know those potholes that are around there. So like hearing that he like landed in one and like snapped his leg, like yikes. But so he's not going to wear number 26 like Gervin Hall did. Like what, come on now. Like we don't gotta, like why are we throwing Jontavius Wyman under the bus for the sins of other players at different positions with different trajectories and a different coaching staff? Like we could do better. Like be excited for the guy, for the kid. Like we did a great job to recruit him and everything. I'm gonna look at the positives of him and not make a comparison to somebody that like I don't. The only comparison would be, what you said is like you hope that he is more successful on the field than Gervin Hall, but like all the entire scenario is different. So like, come on, man.
You can partner with us, folks, if you own a business or maybe in this day and age, of course, your own personal brand, products, services, anything available. Please hit us up at sponsorships at vocfb.com, and we will let you know what we can do for you. Before we grind down, Cam, to the specific Miami spring game, I want to get your thoughts and your opinion on what's happening across college football concerning spring games in general. So we have the teams that are flat out saying, we're not playing spring games. USC, Florida State, Nebraska come to mind, Texas as well. Then there are schools like Clemson this past Saturday was one of only two power conference teams that started the spring game schedule, and Clemson played, West Virginia played. So Clemson, we've seen them on ESPN playing spring games. We're going to play a spring game, but you are not going to see it. We are not going to televise the spring game. Michigan's not televising its spring game one season after Ohio State and Michigan not only played on television, they played on the Fox main channel last year. Those were the two schools, not surprisingly, that played on the Fox national channel their spring game. Then they're not televising their spring game. We've heard a lot of those type of decisions made by head coaches. Still going to play the spring game, just nobody's going to see it, and Miami also included.
It's a necessary evil. When you have the portal open all these times and you're able to, scout and poach players from rosters at all levels. I know Miami has reached down and done that, like Zachariah Poyser from Jacksonville State. And then had Alabama say, cool, your starting wide receiver, who's probably going to be your number one next year, yoink, Isaiah Horton, let me go get that. And I know that there was a little bit of dispute of Isaiah Horton wanting a number in terms of NIL compensation that we were not comfortable going to, but still, it was able to happen. So it's kind of a necessary evil. And look, the spring game is practice 15 of 15 allocated practices in the spring. If you want to do it as a combine, if you want to do it as a showcase, if you want to do it as a spring game, if you want to do it pretty much any way that you want to, fine. The NCAA, quashed the scrimmage idea, with Syracuse, and it was Deion Sanders who said it, and then Fran Brown, always looking for a microphone and a camera, not mad at it, just stating the facts, said, hey, us, we'll go do it. And then the NCAA said absolutely not, because it would constitute an actual competition, an interscholastic competition, which is not. But then again, I raise up once again, the secret scrimmages from basketball, which were never secret and are now a thing you can actually schedule. So why the duplicity in terms of standard there? I don't know. But the landscape of the sport of college football continues to change. And this is just another step along that path, because you want to have what you have in your building and not necessarily have it leave your building in terms of the talent that you worked so very hard and pay so very much to acquire. So, is it different? Yes. Is it a little bit negative for fans, especially like the University of Miami, who we know is a small private school, and we do have a very fervent fan base, but the fan base is stretched out in a lot of different places. It's not all everybody from South Florida or who live here or like myself relocated here to go to school. Anywhere you go, you will find Miami fans. And so not having that game on television is a little challenging, because it's like, well, just show up at Cobb Stadium. If you've already gotten your tickets, they're sold out. So if you just try to show up and walk in, sad days for you. But if you're not able to, because like you live in Montana or where, my boy Dom, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, you know what I mean? And he's a staunch, diehard Miami fan, but he has 2 kids and they play soccer and they're doing things. And maybe he isn't able to come down on a random April, Saturday when it's not their spring break or something. So it is negative in terms of you want to put your program in front of your fan base more or as much as possible, because that's how you breed fandom. It's not just the once in a blue moon, it's that consistent connection. So it is different and I think negative, but it is a necessary evil in terms of not televising and really spreading stuff from the spring. And like even the social media staff from the University of Miami, who's there creating content all of the time, the stuff that they let out from practice is so infinitesimal compared to what's actually going on. Like they finally let out that one throw from last Saturday that Luke Nickel hit Malachi Toney on the touchdown. I'm like, oh, touchdown Toney, because why? They know people want to see that. And again, they gave a crumb. So people say, oh my God, well, Luke Nickel, he made that throw. And, we've been talking about this blue chip quarterback who was underrated pretty much the entire time. He was a 3-star, but now he's a 4-star. And he threw this dime. I mean, well, I don't know who was in coverage, and they're probably playing the 2s or the 3s, but Malachi Toney, man, we've been hearing about him. And that was one play. And the clip was 5 or 6 seconds, I want to say. You know what I mean? So I am rambling a little bit because, this is kind of what you get when I'm just ideating live. But again, the fact that teams are not televising, showcasing their spring games or whatever you want to call it, necessary evil. I do understand it. I don't like it, but like I said, I completely understand it. So whatever.
As long as FBS schedules is accurate, I went through their schedule and you used to see, for example, in the Big Ten Network would show every team. And the only team that I know that they didn't show was because Iowa said, we don't want to play a spring game, but that was up to them. They didn't play. They do something else. I always thought that was kind of stupid because, this is pre-transfer portal. Why wouldn't you market your school and your football program? But anyway, but you would just see these lineups of, noon, Michigan, 2, Penn State, 4, Ohio State, 6, Purdue, etc., for like 3 consecutive Saturdays on the Big Ten Network. And the SEC was similar to it. And now, you just see dashes all over the place. So I'm only finding 12 schools out of 70 in the power conferences that are televising. Ohio State, Virginia, 12. Georgia Tech, Notre Dame, Oklahoma, Houston, Texas A&M, Utah, Colorado, Maryland, Rutgers, and Oregon.
Yeah, I'm surprised it's even 12. Some of those 12 make complete sense just because of the mentality of the program, I believe. Notre Dame, they are the National Catholic University of the United States. So like they have to continue. They're a national brand. They don't have a local base. So they broadcast nationally. Fine. I get it. Oregon, they're the Nike school. They're the innovative jersey school. They are like one of the media darling schools. I get it. Deion Sanders ain't never turned down a camera a day in his life. Prime time, come on, dog. You already know he's gonna be out there. So I get it, but like I am surprised that it's even as many as 12 who are televising, to be honest.
Yeah, according to FBS schedules.
Yeah,
that I've relied on in the past, and they have.
Yeah, no, I love FB schedules. I'm on there all the time. Speaking of scheduling, my boy AJ. Good to see you. What's good? Cam and Mark, glad to get to watch before you deploy. First of all, thank you for your service. And second of all, congratulations, my boy. I saw it on Instagram. AJ and his lovely partner got engaged recently. They had the photo shoot and everything. Man, I am over the moon. I'm so happy for you. He was not my student at Miramar, but I worked there shortly after he graduated, and we, when he was helping with the band staff and he was around and everything. So I've known AJ for many years. A great person, a great guy, man. And I'm so, so happy for you, brother. So congratulations, man.
Congratulations, AJ. That's awesome. All right, folks. So we do have some other super chats coming in, courtesy our buddy Falconer TRX.
Throw it up. My bad. I was taking a sip of my water, my delicious Fiji water.
And Falconer TRX coming back with this one. Mario and crew still recruiting monsters on the O-line.
Yeah, man. The other did I talk about JJ Sparks last week on here?
JJ Sparks, I believe so.
From Jacksonville Bulls, and then I made the thing,
Yeah.
and then we talked about Armwood, and then we talked about Jack Daniels at Palm Beach Dwyer. Yeah, so I mean, you got a 6'8" tackle, you got a 6'7" tackle, and then you have a 6'3" guard center already. Yeah, and you're still pursuing umpteen gigantic players along the O-line. I'm very excited about that. Yeah, they're doing a great job trying to take advantage of all the talent in the state and in the country along the O-line this year. And I love the synergy of seeing a couple of, projecting out, like, okay, if we're getting this elite class 3 years ago, right, we're probably going to start to need to, you want to have guys coming in every year, but you really in earnest need to start replacing them 3 years on. And the synergy of knowing that and then having this just massive elite group of offensive line talent, both in the state, one of the best offensive line classes available in the state of Florida ever, and nationally, with additional guys like a Ben Congdon, like a Jackson Cantwell, like a Kenny Pepe, who's not from here, but he goes to IMG, like a Brett College. You know what I mean? Like, it's just the synergy in terms of that for Miami has been really great. It's like if you're playing your dynasty and you're like, cool, I need these guys. I need a really great wide receiver this year and a tackle, and you go into the created recruiting class and those players are not there to recruit. You're like, okay, I'm going to do something, but it's going to throw off the timing of my program because I really had it cycled where I get the next one now, but they're not there. But for Miami, looking for that next group, it's there in spades. So even with missing on some guys like a Grant Wise already, and others, you're going to be able to get that. So yeah, they're really, really focusing on offensive line and doing a great job recruiting it.
I should have asked you, are you going to the spring game?
Niet. No, I am not. A couple friends of mine are going, but I am electing not to.
Falconer TRX. Cam, could Beck be better than Dorsey?
I mean, he could. Just from the fact of it being a conditional statement, I don't believe that he will or anything. I think that in terms of individual performance, as in counting stats and whatever, there is a strong chance that he has better counting stats in 1 year, does Carson Beck, than Ken Dorsey did even in 2001. That is very possible because he is a more physically talented player than Ken Dorsey. Everything isn't about physical capabilities. Like, Ken Dorsey won all the time. You know what I mean? Like, it just, so they, and I know, like, Falconer, I know that you ask some things kind of tongue in cheek sometimes when we're talking about the turf and whatnot. And I know that this is like a tongue in cheek kind of a thing, but like, they're better is subjective. I think he could be more productive in terms of numbers, but in terms of better, the only way I could say that he would be better is if he led this year's Miami team, the 2025 Miami team, to a season that would eclipse the best college football team ever of 2001. I don't see that happening. So it's hard for me to say he will be better. But technically, with an open-ended conditional question, is it possible in all of the multiverses of what could happen in the future? Yes. Technically, I guess. But I don't think that we live in the reality where that's going to happen.
Well, considering Ken Dorsey was surrounded by, as you state, arguably the greatest team of all time and the greatest talent of all time, and Carson Beck surrounded by one of the 15 best teams in the country, something in that range. If Carson Beck is able to get this team to, let's say, the college football playoff, wouldn't that be an outstanding accomplishment?
It would be outstanding. It would not be better than Ken Dorsey because, as I've said here all the time, the standard is the standard, and the standard at Miami are championships, period. So it would be a great achievement. I would enjoy it greatly. I would celebrate it. I would be very enthusiastic with my enjoyment thereof. So don't take this from me saying if we only get to the college football playoff that, Carson Beck is trash. I am not saying that. But I'm also not going to give him credit for, just like the glory of championship greatness if we don't win championships.
Let's supplant the SMU season last year with Miami, which could have been, was obviously very close to happening. And let's say Miami was not a favorite in the playoff. They didn't win the ACC, but they got into the playoff, a la SMU. And they were going to Penn State like SMU did.
Sure.
Your week leading into that, well, it would obviously be a 3-week deal leading into that game. Your anticipation, your level of excitedness. Let's say if you evaluated Miami to have a good chance of winning the game, it wasn't a situation where they're limping in as the 12 seed and they got to play some enormous giant and you really don't feel they've got a chance. Let's say you're excited about the game, the matchup. How excited would you be for that game, considering where this program's been for the last 15 years or so?
I would be over the moon. I would
versus,
be over.
When's the last time you've been that excited versus what you would anticipate how excited you would be for that game?
I mean, somewhere between the 2004 Peach Bowl and 2017 ACC championship game. Yes, I would be over the moon. You would not stop hearing my voice and seeing my face on this channel. I would be ecstatic if we were able to do that. If Miami had not closed the game with a 42-17 deficit at Syracuse, which is what it was after Miami went up 21-0. P.S. by the way, in case y'all tried to forget. Right? So if we didn't have a 3-score deficit over 41 minutes of ball, we were there. And I was ready for it. And Syracuse came out and they scored real quick after we went up 21-0. And I tweeted at the time, I said, get it together. Just like that. And it, Chinua Achebe, things fall apart. But it was just, we were there already. And I was very ready for what would have been very celebratory kind of conversations for going 11-1 in the regular season, finally making it back to the ACC championship game with a damn good chance to win it and all these different kind of things. I would have been very, very, very ecstatic because, again, that would have been 11-1 and all of those ancillary things. If Miami were to have that kind of a season this year, again, with an offense that is not going to be the number one offense in America, with a quarterback who's not as good as Cam Ward, but improvements hopefully at, and then we'll see what the running game does, obviously, because the passing game, is different and you're losing your top 5-6 receivers across the board of the team and everything, but an improved defense, which if you take it from the hundreds into the 20s, with an offense that, falls from number 1 to hopefully, top 15 or 20-ish, it's possible. But, oh, my God, I would love that. I would enjoy that greatly. I would be very, very excited. And if you go 11-1, 10-2 this year, I don't necessarily think that I'm more of the 9-3. But if you go 10-2, that means that you've beaten Notre Dame and probably one of Florida and Florida State. You know what I mean? Because there's only 2 losses on there. You're not going to lose those back to back. You might lose the opener. So, I mean, you're beating, and you have multiple rivals on the schedule. You're beating multiple rivals. You're going and you're avenging yourself in all these different places. NC State comes down and everything. You get SMU, the SMU Hurricanes, and Rhett Lashley, who still is, picking up guys off of our roster, and you probably beat them. And you stack all those things together in this hypothetical world at 10-2, maybe 11-1 in this year, going to the ACC championship game and having the success like SMU did last year of getting there, and regardless of win or lose, you go to the college football playoff and you think I'm going to be anything other than super duper califragilistic, expialidociously excited? Brother, what are we talking about? I've been waiting for this for the longest. I went to that goddamn game in 2017 up there in Charlotte and had a lot to drink because it got ugly really, really quickly and have not been back since. Not just me, because I'm like, oh, anytime that we go to Charlotte for the ACC championship game, I'm not going to go back again. No, the University of Miami Hurricanes have not made it back since then. What are we talking about? I'd be so excited to have that happen. My goodness.
Well, there's nothing you stated factually that I didn't already know, of course, but for some reason it just kind of sunk in even heavier what an opportunity was blown, because then we see in the aftermath, in the moment, it's obviously a huge opportunity blown, and it would have been a win against a Syracuse team that was in the top 25 and so forth. But it was even worse considering at that point, there was still a thought that they would probably have to win the ACC championship. But as it turned out, well, maybe not. But anyway, as it turned out, of course, SMU, they lost the ACC championship. They didn't have the schedule of wins, Florida, Syracuse, those kind of wins that Miami had. So they would have easily made the college football playoff field. So we know that did it. And I also think that the game against Clemson would have been, I have no idea who would have won.
It wouldn't have been against Clemson. It would have been against SMU. SMU was already locked in. Clemson only got there because we fumbled.
Yeah.
You know, so
said, yeah, thank you.
That exactly. Like it just, all of that. But, you know, hey, great question, Falconer. And, you know, good follow-up from Mark. George Blissett, who was in here earlier with the first comment of the evening. Do we think that Brock Schott will contribute this year? The tight end, one of the tight ends in the 2025 recruiting class. I think that he has a role on this team. I don't think it's going to be a major contributing role. Maybe specials, maybe rotationally. You got Alex Bowman from Tulane. You have Jack Nickel, Luke Nickel's older brother, transferring in. He's more of your Cam McCormick blocking back, tight end kind of a guy. You know, the guys at Canes Insight, well, at least D Money from Canes Insight believes that Elijah Lofton is the best player on the team. I think that's a little bit of a bridge too far for me. With, you know, a team that has Francis Mawanoa and Ruben Bain on it right now. But, you know, there's that. And also Luka Gilbert, the other tight end in this recruiting class, is 6'7", 255. And if you have that kind of physicality, just being able to get on the field for that, if you're talking about being an extra blocker, if you're talking about in the low red zone and just going out there to throw jump balls and try to, you know, jump over somebody in the end zone and go score, I would go with Gilbert before I would go with Schott. Schott is somebody who I believe is a big time player. I think that he's going to have a very big career here. I think that he could have worked his way into being a starter and star player at either defensive end or tight end. He was that kind of impactful player in high school from Leo, Indiana, the player of the year in Indiana. So he has a very bright future here. I'm very excited to see what Brock Schott does, as you saw the recruiting profile just there on the screen previously. I don't know, just in terms of chronology and roster construction and development and just a variety of factors, that this year is going to be the year for him. But I'm very excited that he's on this roster and very excited to see what he can grow into over time. And since we're not honoring retired numbers anymore, apparently, he's wearing George Myra Sr.'s retired number 10 jersey. So that'll be fun for him.
I brought up that recruiting page for my own benefit because I thought, I'm not recognizing this name. And if these guys get committed, if they sign, I hear about them here, if nowhere else. But once I saw the Indiana designation, I saw tight end. I thought, okay, yeah, I remember talking about him. Top 10 tight end in the country.
Top 10 tight end exactly. And I think that's why George Blissett asked about it, or asked about him, excuse me. But yeah, I think that he's going to be a player here. He has the size, the physicality, all those different kind of things. Again, go look up the recruiting notebook I wrote on him, because I write one for everybody, and go look at those highlights and everything. And he played both ways at defensive end and tight end. He can hoop. Like, this is a guy that, like, you should be excited about.
Paolo, you do not have to feel bad. He states here, my apologies for the look back in the previous recruiting class's idea. I did not think Jordan Battle would send Cam over the edge last week. Well, actually, that was my idea. I'm doing this on all the channels that I can get to, and I just wanted to hear from Cam on all these recruiting classes. So we've been doing that for weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, hey, and those videos are up on the channel as well, so go look at all the other ones. I mean, I know that a lot of you who are here were here when we did those, so yeah. I mean, it's just, I know, like, I knew my connection with Jordan Battle and working with his father in my very first job out of undergrad at Deerfield Beach Senior High School that I started 26 days after I graduated college. You know, like, I remember working with him. I remember all these things. I remember seeing him run around the hallway and everything way back in 2005. So, like, you wouldn't know that, but then, like, when we got there and then everything, yeah, that was fun for me to share with you all.
Falconer TRX is wondering if the 100th year of the U could be leveraged as motivation.
I sure hope so. And, you know, happy birthday to the University of Miami, where yesterday was the birthday, the anniversary, the actual 100th birthday of the U. So, you know, my fair alma mater and everything, we love that. And I mean, look, you can twist anything into motivation. You know what I mean? Like, if you're like, hey, you know, for the centennial of our university, we can, you know, do that kind of a stuff. Like, you know, when I taught and I, you know, had my choirs, I would do all kinds of stuff. I would talk about, you know, cooking competition or like the debate team or whatever, you know, like you find the motivation where you need to find it, but also those are great sound bites and narratives and those kind of things, you know, and like that you can put out there and latch on to with a collective mindset, which I believe that all organizations and teams need to have. However, if you're at this level and you're not intrinsically motivated to do your absolute best, what are we doing here? You know, whether you're a player or a coach and everybody's getting paid, big money at this time, you should be able to get up and be motivated inside of your personal self to go out there and do your best and go try to win. But I do think it could be interesting if there were something akin to, you know, the original Major League movie, the first one, when they had in the locker room, every win you get to take off a piece of the thing that's covering up the thing. You know what I'm talking about. But they didn't put that out in the media, right? It was, they had the little placard that went with them to the clubhouse, home or away, and after every win, they kind of got together and celebrated it. If you had the 100th year of the U as that kind of a thing, an internal thing, like you go in the locker room, you're there at Hard Rock Stadium, you have a thing for y'all away from everybody else, sure. But I wouldn't necessarily want it to be like, hey, my name is Mario Cristobal. Thank you for watching University of Miami. We, for the 100th year of I think that would be disingenuous. But like the other one, if you just kind of like have that and you have your saying, your thought, you know, and there's a difference of thought. Well, there's multiple thoughts, but there's one school of thought where you do your motto and mantra is the same always. So mine, when I taught, was loud, proud, strong, and confident. That's how we are going to approach how we do things at Miramar Choir. Miramar football was pride. They had an acronym PRIDE. So we had a thing that was always evergreen, always and forever, every single year. But I've worked places, well, even at Miramar High School, when it's like, okay, we're Bob the Builder and we're building the steps of success of education. And then the next year we're Disney and we're going on a magical journey to whatever, but having that change annually. And it depends on how you view organizational building and leading and things like that. So those things, it can go either way. You know what I mean? So if you are of the idea that like, hey, we need a North Star this year, we need a slogan, we need a motto, we need a new thing for this year, then yeah, the U100 and, you know, we're going to keep it 100 and da-da-da. Okay, I could see how that could work. But, you know, I think at this rate anyway, you should be just busting your ass to go win.
This is just another way in which Cam delivers here, because you started in on that after we, of course, read from Falconer TRX. And once again, of course, Falconer, we appreciate your topic here, bringing it. But I was about to jump on this in terms of, okay, what 19-year-old is going to be motivated by the school turning 100 years old? Now, come on. Is he going to squat an extra 10 pounds or run faster or lower the shoulder on a linebacker because the school's 100 years old? No. Cam delivered why that could be weaved into a way to bring the whole unit and clubhouse together. I love that idea. Absolutely.
Yeah. And like, again, it depends on how you view things. Are you of the way that I ran a program, which was you have one motto, set it and forget it, and everything, or malleable, you're with similar goals. Like, we had to have the growth, we had to have the performance, we had to do the things, but Miramar course, making powerful music. That slogan was created by my students my first year. So we had that stenciled on, or, painted on the wall outside. Great. That didn't change. We just put that in paint, and I don't know if it's still there. They probably painted over my stuff, assholes. But, whatever. But, you have that where it's consistent always, or a thing where it changes year by year, but you still have the same North Star of getting better, playing better, winning games, all these different kinds of things. Either way works.
Falconer TRX following up with this one. In the 90s, ABC pregame did a hit about the turf.
Well, they do that, and especially you, Mark, of all people, being from the Midwest, what game do they always talk about? The beautiful Bermuda grass.
What game did they talk about? The field?
Yes.
What, the game?
On New Year's Day after the parade, going through Southern California.
Oh, certainly the Rose Bowl.
Rose Bowl.
Sure.
Oh, they talk about, and even when my buddy, shout out to my boy Joe, one of my good friends, roommate sophomore year, and he was the band captain when we won the national championship, and he's also from Michigan. We would watch the Rose Parade every year, and he dreamed of marching in that parade, and then went to Miami, and we're like, okay, we're never going to march in the parade, but the bands from the teams get to go, and so he marched in it, and then even he told me, he was like, man, like, the Rose Bowl, first of all, you got to go see it. It's incredible, immaculate. I cannot tell you enough about it. I still haven't gone. I can't wait to go see it. He was just like, and the turf. What? I'm like, what are you? It's like, no. You don't understand, bro. And I'm like, I don't. So, like, even a personal friend about it, like, followed up with that Falconer. So, yeah, there are those people who are very focused on the turf. And usually it's the turf is like the referees. If you're doing your job and it's like not a thing, like you don't really notice it, but then people are slipping and you talk about the length of the cleats and what do they do with the drainage, and they're like, it's one of those things, like you really only notice it when it goes really badly. But yeah, there are people who are enthusiasts about that as well, including, in addition to yourself.
I have heard this rendition maybe 5 to 10 times, because obviously Kirk Herbstreit is announcing the Rose Bowl every year and has for probably 20 years, something in that range. Mm-hmm. But he basically describes it this way: as a child of the Midwest, when he is a big college football fan of 8 years old, 10 years old, that, once late November into December sets in the Midwest, you get your gloomy skies and your dark clouds, and the sun goes down much earlier, and by 5:30 in the afternoon it's dark and it's dismal, and just living with that day after day, week after week after week. And then you get to New Year's Day, and he would state it like, we'd turn on the Rose Bowl, and it was like this other world, this paradise of the San Gabriels and the blue skies and the rose on the stadium.
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. I remember watching the Rose Bowl many a time as a kid, having come inside from shoveling snow, because I had a 3-season business. I cut grass, I raked leaves, and I shoveled snow. So I always had a little spending money. But then, look, I got to do mine. And then my mom said, okay, go over across the street to Miss Johnson's. She's older and her kids aren't around. They're grown with their own kids. So, don't even charge her. Just be sure you not hi, Miss Johnson, I'm going to go shovel your. So, but then I did my driveway, walkway, had to shovel that, take the big corrugated salt that, the granules are this big, the road salt. So it didn't salt over. So you take that. Then, okay, I went over by Miss Johnson's and like, hey, I'm going to go knock on a couple other doors because, Ryan lived down that way on my street. So Ryan had the first part. I lived in the middle. And then Robert lived down on that side. So we kind of divided our block or, up into thirds. So I would go and do that. And, because look, you got to do it. And it snows in the Midwest. So like, yeah, it snows and it, you got sleet and it's all kinds of stuff. And you're bundled up and oh my God, man. And you're sweating your butt off because that shoveling is very physical work. You go and wash up and then you come back down and then it's just like paradise on the screen. Like it is. Yeah, absolutely. So I definitely understand that as well.
Absolutely. We certainly want to take your comments and questions. We've got a few minutes left. And if we don't have any other comments or questions or anything in particular that Cam wanted to hit on, I could bring up a topic, but it could certainly be tabled for future weeks.
Just going to go through and clean out a couple of questions I saw in here. Terrence Templeton, appreciate you being here and thank you for the question. Had Miami made the playoffs, how far do you think that we would have gone? I think it would have been completely dependent upon matchups. And basically, as I said, towards the end of the year, especially when the defense started defensing in the way that it defensed, which was very infrequently, would Miami be able to get the one stop that they needed? Because we're going to go score. Like, that's just it. We're going to go score. Would have we been able to get the one stop we needed, the one time that we needed it? Something like a Louisville game, a Virginia Tech game, the Cal game. We didn't get but two stops in the Cal game. One very early because we got a punt and then interception and then, they whatever. But that last drive before the game-winning drive with the Wesley Bassane massive hit on Fernando Mendoza, which again was a correct call and not targeting. We got that stop, that one that we needed when we needed it. Absolutely. Because if they call that targeting or you don't stop him there or whatever, we don't get the ball. Miami loses 10,000%. I absolutely believe that. But we got that one stop in the playoff, regardless of where it was. Would Miami have been able to get that one stop? Now, if you're considering Miami having made the ACC championship game and then losing, that stop now comes on the road in the opening weekend because we would have been probably the 11 seed, just like seed, not rank, but seed in the tournament, just like SMU was. Are you getting that stop against Penn State? Are you fitting the run when you need to fit it? And are you making Jesus, I almost called him Christian Hackenberg. Lord God. Wow.
A blast from the past.
A blast from the past, but that shows you what I think of him also. Drew Aller, are you getting him to be Drew Aller? Which honestly, not very good. But he made 2 or 3 throws in those games, and then like the defense scored 40 points against SMU because Jennings just kept throwing him interceptions. But like, are you getting him to throw the ball away and throw it to the other color jersey when you need it? If you had that matchup, I'm saying Miami wins. It probably would again been 48 to 40 or 41, but I think that Miami would have won. If Miami would have been, as the comparison should have been, with Tennessee, and then all of a sudden we're going up to Columbus in the opening round, yikes. Because that team has the kind of talent where it would not have been as easy to score. So I think depending on matchup, maybe to the quarterfinals. But also with Cam Ward in that offense, empty the clip, just empty the playbook. Whatever you've been dreaming up, Shannon Dawson, put it on the field and we'll see what happens. But I think, matchup dependent, probably to the quarters. Anything past that would have been gravy, I think. But I think that, even as we saw, which is why we did not make it to the playoffs, the defense was such a liability that even considering one win is a tenuous proposition.
Okay. I'll build off the final statement, which would be for me. I'll look at it. You went on a matchup um, quest there. I'll just state it this way: I don't see Miami beating Ohio State or Texas. I think they were probably and probably Oregon as well. Not that it's not possible. It's possible. Certainly, those teams are not like all-time teams. But so it's possible, but I think it's a very small chance that they could defeat those three teams. I think that they would have had extremely interesting games against Penn State, Georgia, Notre Dame. I do think that those three teams were slightly better. And then after that, I would have expected Miami to beat any of the other teams. Not that, again, Clemson would be capable of beating them, and everyone was capable of beating them. Shoot, they lost to Georgia Tech. But again, if we're talking about all teams playing at their best, then I would have favored Miami against the field other than the teams I just mentioned.
No, yeah, and I agree. And, hey, again, remember, Oregon was undefeated. We wouldn't have seen them unless, again, going with losing the ACC championship game, wouldn't have seen them unless we won a game to begin with. You know what I mean? So, like, outside of, so one or, because Georgia actually won the SEC, remember, they had a bye. So, two of the three teams that you're really like, yeah, Miami wouldn't have beaten them, wouldn't even been there in the first round to beat us. You know what I mean? So like, then you're really looking at a matchup with the other teams. Yeah, I mean, I think that a win probably would have been there in the opening round. I think I really think that would have been it. But also leaving the door open for the defense, leaving the door open to even make an opening round win impossible. But I think it's fairly. It tracks logically to me that, like probably a first round, not getting a bye, winning the first round game, and then probably losing the in the quarters.
Although, because of the way it's stacked up with the odd configuration of the buys, two of them going to teams that were well outside the top 10 in the country, that second round game, once you get past a Penn State, would have been against a Boise State.
Potentially, depending on ranking, so like that's, you're adding a level of hypothetical. And I get it, but
based on the tournament, if Miami was SMU, they would have played Penn State, then they would have played Boise State.
No, you're right. But no, you make a good point.
So for a lot of those teams, the second round game was less difficult than the first round matchup because of the oddity of the buys.
Yeah, but I do think that the playoff, it was very successful. Like, got lots of eyes. You had the storyline. I mean, I wish that Indiana would have been able to finish a drive in that game, a single one, and just made it even more tense, I guess, because once they were down inside the 5 time after time after time after time, and they got no points. And then eventually, Notre Dame, cool, the running back or whatever skirted out the back for 97 yards. You're just like, GG's. Like, you're like, it's over right then. But yeah, I mean, there was a lot to like. I mean, it would have definitely been better. And I would have liked it more had Miami been included in the playoff. But as a special event, a short season of television, because remember, football games are television shows, it was fairly engaging. Although, it ended early for me because I did not watch the championship game. So,
two of your favorites on the field for that one.
Oh my God. The worst. Yeah.
I enjoyed 4 games straight in that one for sure.
Yeah, I bet.
Because that was a gauntlet that they ran through. And I also enjoyed getting all the games right in regards to my predictions, 11 straight.
Yeah. And
that'll be tough to do.
Oregon got their doors blown. Wow. I turned that game off so quick. Like, I was barely settling in. I think I had wings and fries that night. I was like, oh yeah, I'm getting comfortable on the, okay, what else is it? Like, Netflix, like, changed the input to my PS5. Like, it was shocking. They got the doors blown off. But hey, but when you play with reckless abandon, like, you can do some of those great things. So maybe Miami would have been able to compete in the second and in further rounds. But, again, 21-0 at Syracuse through through 18 minutes. And then the rest of that game was 42-17 Syracuse. It was not close. And with that went the season. So you got to do what you got to do, and hopefully, this year Miami finds ways to win games. I am not expecting that kind of performance. I'm more of the, I've for years said 7-5 and proved me wrong. I think Carson Beck is a 1 to 2 win player on top of the 7-5. Obviously, he's not fully healthy yet and everything, so we'll see. So I'm in that 8-5, but like all of the sports books have 9-3 or 8-4, and 9-3 is like triangulated because it's the under, but heavily favored on the 9.5, and it's the over, heavily favored on the 8.5 number. So Vegas, no matter which way you're looking at it, is like Miami's a 9-3 team this year. Boom. I think that's it / the ceiling. So I would say probably like 70%. Like I would think that 9-3 is where we're going to go. If anything else, I would say the other 30% would be 8-4 or worse. I don't see 10-2. I don't see 11-1. I don't see getting to the regular season finale at 10-1 with 60 minutes to go like we were last year. I don't see it, but we will see. And Dirty Kang thing, yes, exactly. Miami couldn't get a stop. But again, after the defense started defensing the way that it defensed, it wasn't about getting a lot of stops. It was about getting a stop, and then even with that very, very low bar of just one time, please, we weren't able to make that happen. So,
yeah, that was a game and a matchup that, 6 weeks in advance, I think I brought up, and I wasn't the only one that could kind of see it coming as if these two teams play 10 times, Miami wins all sorts of configurations 8 times of, 42-35 and 42-38 and some maybe like 49-21 games and so forth. But that guy at quarterback and those couple wide receivers on the right day.
Yeah.
And that's what it was.
Yeah. And, then you have OJ Frederick, freshman All-American, but still a freshman, had his worst game of the year. But again, when you're just like, cool, we got old guys who are 23 and 24 years old, and they're jump ball merchants. So they're bigger than you and stronger than you. They're not faster than you, but they're going to get to the catch point, and then they're going to outmuscle you every single time. That's a skill set that he didn't have, and they were able to exploit that. I mean, hey, it is what it is. So anyways, yeah, interesting question and conversation, to be sure.
And looking forward on State of the U, what do you have going on this week?
We have a bunch of different things. So always please come over and fan with us. We got the Welcome to the U pieces for JJ Sparks and Jontavius Wyman, Craig T. Smith, and Justin Dottavio looking at the NFL draft. So the question of who will be the second Hurricane taken after Cam Ward, the presumptive number 1 overall pick, regardless of which team is making that pick. Looking at the analysis of Cam Ward also, and things of that nature. And Justin Dottavio looking at Elijah Lofton, and saying if he's the best player on the team, then in the words of Keyshawn Johnson, throw him the damn ball. And we're going to see, well, we won't see, but it will be seen if Elijah Lofton is that kind of a player, because the spring game is up this Saturday on campus at Cobb Stadium at the U. Again, if you have your tickets already, great. If you don't, SOL. It'll be interesting to see and hear what happens there. I know that the defense is starting to come together. It's great to hear that, especially with the deficiencies that, we talked about even on this show about the defense last year. Guys stepping up, Xavier Lucas looking like, everybody's 5-star All-American, Zachariah Poyser, seeing what the quarterbacks who are playing can do. Luke Nickel finally kind of getting acclimated to the speed of the game. Emory Williams, Judd Anderson, who's physically just impressive, but he's super raw. Like in another life, he's kind of like Josh Allen, where he's just like a raw player, and but the Josh Allen player more often than not ends up going pro in something other than sports. You know what I mean? Like this very athletic guy with tools but no skills, and never develops the skills, and then we never hear from him again. Like Josh Allen has said, a one of one kind of development, but Judd Anderson, again, is a guy who was like 20 and 11 on the basketball floor, a legit 6'7", 6'8" with a strong arm, and all the athleticism you could ever want. We'll see how that goes. We'll see how the freshmen play out there. Look excited to see what the rotations are on the first and the second team, and as always, the main thing for me, coming out of spring healthy. So I know there are some bumps and bruises, some things like that going on with the team, because football is a collision sport, and that's always what's going on with every team. Like, you're not going to be 100% fresh after 15 practices or games or whatever in the game of football, but making sure that there's no catastrophic injuries, which we've seen before. My guy Ryan Williams tore his ACL in the spring game, remember? Or no, that was in fall camp. But still, not having any of those, and seeing what these position battles are looking like, especially in leading in the way, number 5 versus number 12, Ray Joseph versus Malachi Tony at slot, because that's a knockdown drag out fight that has been going on and will continue to be going on. So we'll have some things about that and more, but as always, please come on over and fan with us at stateoftheu.com. We're open 24/7 365, or as the kids say, 25/8. So yeah.
I am slightly amused by this comment from Kelly Kane 8, which apparently I was not obvious enough with my sarcasm about one Kyle McCord. I know who Kyle McCord is. So when I said that guy at quarterback for Syracuse, I've seen Kyle McCord play plenty of football, believe me. Just so happened to lead the nation in passing. If they played 10 times, not sure Miami wins 5. Miami's a better football team than Syracuse. Again, Syracuse very much reminded me of the Sam Hartman Wake Forest teams that were basically just riding his right arm and 3 guys at wide receiver, and that was the team. But yeah, we don't know. But
right.
The one exception I will take to this, not necessarily this comment, but it leads me to a tweet that was sent out by Syracuse University after Kyle McCord had a remarkable season. Great. He threw the ball a zillion times and amassed all this yardage. But they put out a tweet that said, because Kyle McCord set the ACC passing yardage record, they called it the best passing season in ACC history. No, those are two different things. Those are two. He was not Trevor Lawrence. He was not Deshaun Watson. He was not fill in the blank, Jameis Winston.
I was about to say Jameis. Yeah,
yes,
like
he did not have the greatest passing. He amassed the most yardage, which that's a great thing, but that's not the totality of a passing year, just the total yardage.
His passing season wasn't as good as Cam Ward's, if we're going to keep it a stack.
Exactly.
There were more yards.
Exactly.
Sure, fine, by a couple, but it wasn't. It wasn't. I mean,
no.
If I, and I know there's another one comment before we get out of here, but if I go to the ACC and I go to I got to go to individual passing.
No. I responded to that tweet from the Syracuse University football program just to say there's a difference here.
Yeah, and he had double the interceptions that Cam Ward had.
Sure he did.
Literally. So what are we talking about? Because we were just talking about so the interception throws didn't count? Yeah. Interesting. Curious, but yeah, that's funny. That is funny.
And as you mentioned here, Cam, we got one more comment coming in. So we do appreciate True Showstopper. My bad. Top 5 favorite games you have attended, any sport, anytime. Okay, I'll leave that for Cam because I can talk about that anytime.
Okay, I will give you the bullet point list with no elaboration. I went to, Well, okay, Michigan, Virginia, football, 94.
4.
Scott Dreisbach to Mercury Haynes in the corner of the end zone on the last play for a touchdown. Couldn't see what happened, just saw the throw, and the throw went into the band. And at Michigan Stadium, the band stands on the field there. And the band just started going crazy. So that one was 1. 2000 Miami, Florida State at the Orange Bowl, my first Florida State game. The first Florida State rivalry game of my freshman year. That's 2. Insert Bad Boys Pistons game here. Went to the finals in 89. Went to the finals in 90. I was at the last game of the Bad Boys when Jordan finally got over them in 91 when they walked off, which, by the way, the Celtics did to the Pistons when we beat them 3 years before. I digress. But that is 3. Honestly, 2017 Miami Notre Dame, 4. That was an incredible, beyond incredible game. And ...2005 Eastern Conference Finals, Game 7, Heat Pistons at the AAA, when I was just out of undergrad. Me and my boy Joe that I talked about earlier, we, were young and broke and got standing room only tickets to all those games. And we won tickets to Game 7. That's an incredible story. I do have time to tell. So we won Game 5 here, went back to Game 6 in Detroit at the Palace at Auburn Hills. Wade was out, and then Shaq got injured. So he missed that game, Game 6. So we're watching it at the old sports bar at the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino, which is now the poker room there in the kind of middle atrium. And the Pistons are blowing out the Heat. They have a halftime, the Pop-A-Shot basketball competition. And so we sign up, we rush over there because we both played basketball. We both got, wet jump shots, boom. And it comes to pass that we're on the same side of the bracket. So the furthest we could meet is in the semifinals. And we thought that we didn't think about spacing it to meet in the finals. So we get through, we're blowing each other out. We're blowing everybody out. We get to our semifinal matchup, being one of my very good friends, and I'm winning by 18. I'm I can't miss. And he hits the last 7 3-pointers and beats me by 2 at the buzzer. And I'm mad. And so he goes to the finals, and it's a Budweiser production, and the Budweiser promo people pull him and the other guy over, and they do a little photo shoot thing, and it comes back, and Joe starts off colder than a polar bear's toenails. He couldn't make anything. And I'm oh my God, I could have beaten this guy. And I'm no, it's okay. Joe beat me. I know that he's a shooter. But it happens. Whatever. We're not going to Game 7. I'm, figuring out, okay, do we go and try to buy the standing room only tickets again? Because we've been doing those for years and everything. Get there 2 hours early and just stand up next to the, you're so close you can almost touch the jerseys that are retired on the side. That's where standing room only is. And so I'm just mad. And he comes over, and we're there with his mom and his sister, who were also down in town. And he's just and I'm what in the world? He's okay. I'm he's taking that loss better than me. And Terrence Simpleton, I'm glad that you caught me paraphrasing the Outcast there. Bang, bang. And so he's just no, we're good. I'm did you win the lottery or something? Whatever. Anyways, the guy who wins goes with the promo team from Budweiser. He goes and gets the tickets, and then he comes over and he's cool, here you go. And there were 5 tickets in the competition. And apparently, before they started, when they shook hands, under his breath, Joe just goes, winner gets 3, loser gets 2. all right. And they shook on it. So he took this guy at his word, and he came over. He's like, all right, let me just look at the tickets, make sure you got two together. Here you go. And I'm like, oh my God. But remember what I said earlier. Joe's mom and his sister are down. So I'm like, he's totally going to take. But then I was like, wait, no, his mom going back. But his sister's going to, I'm like, yeah, you're going to take your sister. Like, hey, it's all good. He's like, no, I'm not. Like, clear your calendar. We're going. I'm like, nah, like, yo, what? I'm like, okay. So then we go to the game. We got these awesome seats for the low price of free after we've been paying for standing room only all of this time. And of course, we're wearing our Piston stuff. This is whiteout heat playoffs. So I'm wearing my blue my blue Chauncey Billups 1 jersey, because my white jersey was 36 Rasheed Wallace. So I'm wearing my blue jersey. We have our going to work. We have our construction vests and everything. Like, we stick out like a sore thumb, lower bowl, 6th row. Like, man, it was great. And going in, there was a concession stand worker, young lady, and she talked all kinds of shit. Oh, come see me after the game. You're gonna be crying. Nah, stop by, see me. 305. We do. All right, cool, smooth. And I just remember they go to the final timeout of the game, and coming out of that timeout, they play Eminem "Lose Yourself." Eminem from the Detroit area. He's from Dearborn, not Detroit, but whatever, y'all know. So from the final, the end of the movie, you got to lose. So they play "Lose Yourself," and me and Joe go crazy. We're rapping every single word. Like, oh yeah, y'all playing Detroit Rock City music right now in this moment of a 1-point game, our ball in your building, we're going to win. And you're going to be mad. And people are like, they're throwing stuff. They're yelling at me and everything. Detroit wins that game. Ends the Heat season in their barn in Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals. I'm over the moon. I'm so hyped. And I go back, and I'm talking my big one now. So, like, hey, all of y'all had everything to say now. Say it on your ride back to South Beach. Say it on your ride back to Westchester. Enjoy watching my squad go to the finals. Get out of here. And I go back up, because it was the concession stand area with this young lady was right at the top of our section. So we had to walk by her going out just like we did going in. And when I tell you, she was crying buffalo tears, man. I mean, you could snot running down, pretty girl, full face beat. I mean, like snot. I mean, you could barely hear it. And I'm just like, oh no, like, oh, sweetheart, you really thought that they were going to beat the Pistons. Oh, and I know that eventually y'all ended up beating the Pistons, but not at that time. Not in 04 and 05, y'all weren't. And so, like, it was a really, really great day. And then, Joe and I, we ended up going out I think I was living wherever I was living. It was up the road a little bit, but yeah, he was living very, very close to Brickell, like right off the end of 95 there somewhere. So yeah, we ended up going out down in Coral Gables, I believe, or Coconut Grove, and had a really, really, really great evening after that. So yeah, that was a awesome time. So actually, you know what, True Showstopper, I appreciate that question. And even though it was only one explanation, that was number 5 on my list, and I hope that you enjoyed it. And thank you for the contribution that led me down memory lane to remember that time that we got to go did that.
Fun story. No baseball though, but fun story. I am headed off to a recruiting update show that I am late for. So we'll wrap it up here, and we'll get to everyone next Wednesday, 7 Eastern, folks.
Got you. All right, James Scott. Yeah, appreciate it. But she could have gone and found her own box of tissues. But you can find us here anytime. Be sure you like, subscribe, follow the channel. We'll see you guys next week. Take care.